The House will come to order. The invocation today will be given by the Honorable Aaron Burns, State Representative from the 15th District. Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise? Representative?
As we gather today in the People's House, we do so under the weight of immense grief. We grieve for the students whose lives were lost on February 13th at Michigan State University. And we grieve for their loved ones who will never have the chance to see them grow old. Our hearts are with our Spartans, on campus, in the legislature, and around the world. We offer a humble and heartfelt thank you to our first responders, dispatchers, and campus mental health professionals whose critical work has not gone unnoticed. Today we recognize that the universe has brought all of us together in this time and in this place to demonstrate what it looks like to care for one another. As Bell Hooks once said, love is an action, never simply a feeling. May every single person in this room be moved to act from a place of love. Love for our students, love for our students, love for our neighbors, love for our children, and love for our state. May we be moved by the love of freedom, freedom from fear, freedom to live in peace, freedom to live, period. We are here because we have answered one of the highest callings, to be of service to others. Let our love for our neighbors and our communities be forever at the core of who we are, what we do, and how we do it. May we all be motivated to act swiftly from a place of love and without fear.
Thank you, Representative. The clerk will open the board for the purpose of taking attendance. The board is now open. Members may check in at their desk.
WDIV Channel 4 from Detroit, Michigan Advance from Lansing, and Michigan Public Radio from Lansing have permission to photograph and videotape during today's session. WILX Channel 10 in Lansing has permission to videotape during today's session.
Members, please check in at your desk. The Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to excuse all absent members.
So ordered. The clerk will close the board, tally, display, and announce today's attendance.
Mr. Speaker, a quorum of the House is present. There are no members absent with prior excuse.
Will members, staff, and guests in the gallery please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to proceed to the order of motions and resolutions and take up House Resolution 3-6.
Without objection, so ordered. The House has a memorial resolution. All members and staff, please take your seats. The clerk will read.
The Speaker, on behalf of the entire membership of the House of Representatives, offers House Resolution number 3-6, a resolution of tribute to express our condolences for the tragic shooting at Michigan State University.
I, on behalf of the entire membership of the House of Representatives, offer the following resolution. A resolution of tribute to express our condolences for the tragic shooting at Michigan State University. Whereas, in the evening hours of February 13th, 2023, the students, staff, and community members within the surrounding Michigan State University, mere miles from this chamber, suffered an unspeakable tragedy. A lone gunman entered campus buildings and opened fire on those inside, beginning an hours-long effort by first responders to protect those on campus and bring an end to the violence. Those in and around campus were ordered to shelter in place by police, forced to simply wait and hope that the ongoing nightmare unfolding within their community would eventually come to an end without more bloodshed. Throughout the country, the friends and family members of those in the community looked on in horror. The gunman was eventually found, but not before he had taken the lives of 3 students and injured even more. We in this chamber, like all those with ties to Michigan State University across the nation, mourn this senseless, unnecessary loss of life and pray that those still hospitalized will recover. And whereas acts of mass violence like this tragedy reflect an utter rejection of value and dignity that should be afforded to every single human being. What is left in the wake of a life taken in such a violent, chaotic manner is a sense of confusion, frustration, and anguish that is impossible to put into words. Tragedies like this leave communities forever scarred and hearts forever broken. And whereas now more than ever, it is important to recognize the heroism and resolve demonstrated by those who lead us through times of tragedy. To those on the police force who work tirelessly to defend the community they are entrusted to protect and who bravely enter building after building, classroom after classroom, we see you and we thank you. To the medical professionals who responded on scene and to those caring for individuals who have suffered injury, we see you and we thank you. To heroic staff and students of Michigan State University who risk their lives to ensure the safety of those around them, we see you and we thank you. It should not take a tragedy for us to recognize the best of us, but we would do a dishonor to their courage if we did not take this opportunity to commend their valiant efforts and express our gratitude on behalf of Michiganders everywhere. And whereas we must never forget the individuals whose lives were taken on February 13th. Ariel Anderson, Alexandria Verner, Brian Frazier. This chamber mourns with your family and your friends. We dedicate ourselves in your honor to work toward a better world, a world where Michiganders can feel safe in their communities, a world where families can send their loved ones to receive an education without fearing the worst that might befall them, a world where we embrace each other in joy, not in grief. This chamber, your chamber, will not forget you. Your state will not forget you. Your country will not forget you. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the House of Representatives that we express our condolences for the tragic shooting at Michigan State University. I ask all members to rise and join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Today on the floor of the Michigan House of Representatives, we are joined by some of the bravest first responders who answered the calls for help on Monday night. We are forever indebted to you for your willingness to run into the chaos and work to secure each building to end the violence of that night. Sergeants, will you please escort the first responders to the front of the rostrum? Members, please join me in recognizing these first responders. Thank you. You may return to your seats. Also, within those first responders, want to recognize the 911 operators, too, who took the calls. Thank you. We are devastated by the events of February 13th. I do not believe any of us who sit in this chamber expected to serve in the midst of such tragedy. No student should fear for their safety on campus of one of our universities, and no parent should ever have to wonder if their child will return home alive once they've sent them off to college. The lives of the Michigan State University community are forever changed because of the violence of Monday night. For 3 families, their children will never come home. I want to take a moment to recognize 2 of the victims of Monday night's shooting. Ariel Anderson was a 19-year-old sophomore at Michigan State University and a graduate of Grosse Pointe North High School. I believe she is best remembered in the words of her family and loved ones. Over the past couple days, we have seen her described by family members as respectful, as bright, inspiring, and humble. She was a straight-A student and an amateur photographer. A statement released by her family states, "She means the world to us. As much as we loved her, she loved us and others even more. She was passionate about helping her friends and family, assisting children, and serving people. Driven by her aspiration to tend to the health and welfare of others, as a surgeon, she was working diligently to graduate from Michigan State University early to achieve her goals as quickly as possible. As an angel here on earth, Ariel was sweet, loving, with an infectious smile that was very contagious. Brian Frazier was also a sophomore at Michigan State University and a graduate of Grosse Pointe South High School. He was described as a leader. A statement from his local church, St. Paul on the Lake Catholic Church, reads, "His light shined bright with love, leadership, and kindness. In the classroom, athletics, and within the St. Paul community." Frazier was special, and he was tragically lost far too soon. Brian was also an athlete. The Grosse Pointe South High School swimming and diving team said, Brian had an infectious smile and sense of humor that could light up the pool deck and bring laughter to the entire team. Ariel Anderson, Brian Frazier, and Alexandria Werner were killed on Monday night when the gunman opened fire on students and staff at Michigan State University. Bullets struck another 5 students who are still in critical condition in the hospital. There are not adequate words to help comfort the families of those 8 victims, but please know here, we hold you close. Speaker recognizes Representative Brixey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish that we were not here today for this reason. I rise today in support of the resolution. The grief our community feels for Brian and Ariel and Alexandria is beyond words. The pain for the 5 students fighting for their lives at Sparrow Hospital is too raw. The tens of thousands of students and staff traumatized by these tragic events is awful, and it's not okay. MSU is my home. It's been the heart and the backbone of my community, but now, like Newton, Newtown, and Oxford, and Uvalde, this place of learning and arts and culture and sports has been shattered by violence. Our children, my neighbors, our community, all of you are grieving. We must not forget what these 3 students, these special people, have contributed to our community. And we must not forget this immense loss. While our legislature has failed you in the past, we will not make that mistake again. But today, hold each other, check on each other, reach out to each other, and hold each other close. And for our first responders, we know you're parents and human beings with feelings and emotions as well as skills. And thank you so much for all that you've done for us in the face of tragedy. Today, tell our family members we love them, hug our children, and envelop those whose children will not be coming home. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Alexandria Werner was a beautiful young lady, both inside and out. But tragically, she was one of the 3 students who did not survive the MSU shooting on Monday night. She was a junior at Michigan State where she was studying biology and anthropology. The 20-year-old student went by the nicknames Alex and Al when she was growing up in Clawson, which is a very close-knit town of only 11,000 people. Clawson folks tend to know one another well, and so many knew Alex. And why not? She graduated from Clawson High School in 2020. She was a triple threat at sports, playing volleyball, softball, and basketball. She was also in the National Honor Society and Student Leadership Council. Clawson School Superintendent and spokesperson for the family, Billy Schellenberger, spoke to 400 people last night at a candlelight vigil, one of 3 the city of Clawson will be holding this week. He said that Alex embodied everything that was great about humanity. He said she was giving, selfless, so positive. We honored the path she walked of strength and compassion. If you knew her, you loved her, and will forever remember the lasting impact she's had on all of us. A student said at the vigil that the Werners are beloved in Clawson. Alex's mother is an elementary school teacher. Her father is the treasurer of the local school board. She said, they're charismatic, joyous, and always kind to everyone they meet. I care a lot about them, as do the many people here tonight, because she deserved so much more than this. Alex also left behind 2 siblings. In Alex's class yearbook, she gave this advice to younger students. She wrote, it's okay to feel tired or pressure from the busy schedule of being a student athlete, but quitting will never make you feel better. Today may be hard, but tomorrow will be better. A former classmate wrote on Facebook that it's so hard to imagine that Alex is not out there making the world a better place right now. She said, Al was always the best of us. In closing, I'll repeat the sentiment from last night's vigil. Let us not honor the narrative of Monday night, but the beauty of Alexandria's 20 years of life. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Minority Floor Leader Posthumous.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was born a Spartan, and to this day I bleed green. I may not have a green tie, but I bleed green. And the events that unfolded the other night took everybody by surprise. Breaks my heart today, will break my heart for days to come. I rise in support of this resolution in honor and respect for those that lost their lives, for the first responders that stepped up and saved countless more, for the medical personnel that acted diligently and continued to fight for as long as they could to help as many people as they could. You know, this is a story that starts in tragedy, but I hope can continue on with healing, a recognition of heroism, and finally with hope. You see, I believe in the power of prayer when it comes to healing. I believe that it takes a lot of prayer to get through that, for us all to come together as one, for us all to recognize the atrocities that come, and to heal our hearts. I believe in the power of prayer for healing the families of Brian and Ariel and Alexandria. And I hope that we can all look to one another to aid in that healing. I believe in the power of prayer when it comes to the heroism that was exhibited the other night. How many prayers were answered as our first responders came to their rescue? and I believe in the power of prayer when it comes to our hope for tomorrow. Tomorrow can be a better day. Tomorrow can be a brighter day. If we look at what the individuals believed and stood for and lived for, if we look to them and live in honor and respect of them, we can have hope for a brighter future. I was born a Spartan, I bleed green, and forever I'm a Spartan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've endured far too many tragedies like these over the last several years. I wish that this was an anomaly. And I wish even more that tragedies like this never even happen. But as we all know, on Monday, tragedy struck the Spartan Nation in ways that has inflicted a lasting, deep pain, especially to the families of Ariel, Brian, and Alexandria. Now, I have been fortunate, Mr. Speaker, to never have lost an immediate family member. My siblings and my parents are still with me today. But I can only imagine that nothing, absolutely nothing, can fill the space of losing a child, a brother, a sister, a grandchild, or even a friend. And I know that one of the deepest pains that a parent would have to endure is to bury their child into the ground. And I want us to reflect on how we got here. This is a uniquely American problem, Mr. Speaker. And while I know that I will never understand the pain of the families of Ariel, Brian, and Alexandria, I just want to say that I am so sorry. I am sorry that we failed you. I am sorry that there was not a solution in place that could have solved this American crisis. To the friends of the deceased and Spartan Nation, I know that we will never be able to match the sorrow and the pain that you have endured, and the sorrow and pain that you will continue to endure. But know this, you are not alone in your grief. We are here to tell you that we will take some of that pain, we will take some of that sorrow, and we will do what we can to begin to understand the trauma. Mr. Speaker, I was texting my nephew, who's a junior at Michigan State, on Monday. He took 25 of his classmates to the top floor of the engineering building and barricaded the classroom, and was texting and saying, is there an update? Do you know where the shooter is? Do you know what direction they're headed? Should we be concerned? And I will never know that pain, that fear, the sense of helplessness that him and so many other Spartans on Monday felt, sitting on a campus that is as large as my hometown, in complete darkness, praying to God that they did not hear a gunshot wound, praying to God that their friends and family were not going to be one of the fatalities. So we know that Ariel, Brian, and Alexandria were beautiful souls. One, they were Spartans, which is in and of itself one of the best decisions they could ever make. But I have to imagine the trauma and the sense of helplessness that the families faced. What do you say in a moment? What do you say in the time frame? How do you translate the situation that happens? What do you begin to tell the siblings of these people? What do you begin to tell the extended family, to the roommates, the sorority brothers and sisters? What do you even say to them? Mr. Speaker, I too believe in the power of prayer. And in my tradition, there's an expression that goes, Al-ilm bila amal kashajari bila thamar. And what that means is knowledge of faith without action is like a tree that does not bear fruit. It serves no purpose, Mr. Speaker. So, I want to remind us today as we see the deep pain that has inflicted Spartan Nation, that this was a man-made tragedy. This could have been avoided, and we thank our first responders who helped prevent a larger tragedy from continuing. This could have been avoided. We could go to these families and say, there was another way. And the hardship that they're enduring, I pray that none of us will ever have to experience. And I know that it will take a long time. But I come today with a message of love, a commitment for prayer, and a renewed intention for action, Mr. Speaker. I've been reflecting over the last few days, and I've asked myself, did we do enough here in the great state of Michigan? Did we live by the Spartan will? Did we keep our oath to do the work of protecting and serving the people of this great state? For Brian and Ariel and Alexandria, the answer is no. The answer is no. This is a hardship that this state, a hardship that this country, and now a hardship that we all experience. And in my scripture, we know that with hardship, verily with hardship comes ease. But ease does not just fall out of the sky. In order to begin to ease some of the pain and ease some of the sorrow and to ease back love and joy into the lives of those that have suffered, we have to commit ourselves to do the work. So to Spartan Nation, to the students that are still at Michigan State having to relive the trauma, I am sorry. To the community of East Lansing, I am sorry. To the family of the deceased, I am sorry. To those still in the hospital, hanging on for dear life, I am sorry. And to Ariel, Alexandria, and Brian, I am so, so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Pohotsky.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today as a broken-hearted alum of Michigan State University. I also rise as one more person who sat waiting by their phone Monday night to hear that someone they care about was safe. A member of my team was on campus and under lockdown for 4 hours, waiting for word from law enforcement that she was safe to leave. At one point, it had been about an hour since I'd heard from her, and as I was about to text her for an update, I remembered what a friend of mine had said when I was in a lockdown several years ago. She told me that she had sat by her phone, agonizing over whether or not to text to ask if I was okay, but afraid that any light or sound or vibration from my phone might put me in danger. So sitting there on Monday at my dining room table on the other side of this equation, I became instantly furious. I was and am furious that we have generations of people that have to know these things. I'm furious that we have 3 families that will never see their loved one again, and 5 more who are hoping and praying that their loved one will pull through. I'm furious that this is my 5th year in office, and after countless mass shootings, we are just now in a position to move legislation to prevent these tragedies. I'm furious that not even 2 days after one of the most traumatic events these young people will hopefully ever have to endure, some of them unbelievably for the 2nd time in their lives, they had to come here to demand change. And I'm sorry to them, because I know how hard that is and how scared they are to be here while they are still processing what they've been through. So while this is a resolution to honor the memory of the victims of Monday's shooting, we're also here to honor the memory of all of the things we lost that night. The Spartan community lost a feeling of community and home. The people who survived that night have lost a part of themselves that they may never get back. They lost a sense of safety, and they lost faith in us here in this body, because this has happened yet again. As I said, I have unfortunately lost count of how many of these senseless and violent acts I have served through. Each time I've felt a sinking and hopeless feeling, knowing that we are here and we have the tools to prevent these acts, but we have chosen time and time again not to use them. And before anyone dismisses what I'm saying as an inappropriate political statement, I urge my colleagues who did not attend the event this afternoon on the Capitol steps to talk to the MSU survivors surrounding us in the gallery and ask them what they want in this moment. They don't want our condolences. They do not want our thoughts and prayers. They want us to take action. And for the first time since I took office, we're able to do that, and we will. And I am sorry, I am so profoundly sorry that the action wasn't taken after the last mass shooting, or the one before that, or the one before that. I'm sorry to the families for whom this action comes too late. I'm sorry to the Spartans who are here today, who will have to live with the effects of the trauma they've endured for the rest of their lives, and for whom this action comes too late. But I hope that they know that they are heard, and the immense amount of bravery that they are showing here today, and that the memory of those we lost will not be in vain. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Cernoglu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today as the representative from East Lansing. Michigan State University is renowned across the world for academic excellence, groundbreaking research, and championship athletics. Now, we solemnly add site of America's latest mass shooting to that list. The southernmost border of my district is Grand River Avenue, which happens to be the northernmost boundary of Michigan State's campus. MSU is so much more than a college campus in our city. It's the place that families like mine go for walks and bike rides, to eat the world's best ice cream at the MSU Dairy Store, see Broadway performances at the Wharton Center, cheer on our Spartans on Saturdays in the fall, and see world-class art exhibits and renowned performers. I'm fortunate to represent thousands of Spartans that live in the student houses and apartments off campus. I am proud of the strong town-gown relationship in our community. We love our student neighbors and all that they bring to our city, East Lansing. East Lansing is MSU, and MSU is East Lansing. When one excels, the other follows. When one is wounded, the other mourns. We are deeply intertwined with one another. Regardless of where one is from or what university is listed on their college diploma, we are all Spartans. Today, we are all heartbroken, we are in shock, we are angry, and we demand change. My promise to my Spartan community is this: we won't let you down. After decades of inaction in Lansing and Washington, positive change is coming. Today, again, we offer our thoughts and prayers, but tomorrow we get to work to find and implement solutions to this violence. I look forward to working with my colleagues on both sides of the aisle and working with anyone that is serious about implementing solutions to end these tragedies that plague our state and our nation. If we can save just one life, prevent just one event like this, and have to offer our thoughts and prayers just one less time, then we will be victorious. For the 3 young people that lost their lives on Monday night, Alexandria Verner, Ariel Anderson, Brian Frazier, for their families, friends, and loved ones, and for those still fighting for their lives just down the street from here, please know this: we are with you in every way possible. There are no words any of us can express that will make things better at this time. Let the actions this body takes speak louder than any words or condolences we can offer. I thank the brave police and law enforcement officers, our first responders, paramedics, 911 dispatchers, and the doctors and nurses at Sparrow, and everyone else that stepped up during this trying time. Beneath the pines we'll gather to give our faith so true, sing our love for alma mater, and thy praises, MSU.
Speaker recognizes Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of this resolution as we honor the victims of those impacted by the senseless tragedy at Michigan State University. As a parent, a grandmother, and someone who is committed to being a voice for the families in this chamber, it pains me that I know how these families feel. I know how these families hurt, and I know the loss and the suffering that they're going through. This is a son, and these are daughters, and these are children that will never be coming back home to them. My daughter was killed in 2021 in a motorcycle accident. She was taken from me at only age 24. She left behind 3 children who will never get to know their mother. When I was 15, my 16-year-old brother was shot in the back in a drive-by shooting. He was paralyzed at 16 years old. When he was 32 years old, he was shot 12 times in the chest while he sat in his car, unable to get out because he was in a wheelchair. The unbearable pain that we feel in situations like this is so overwhelming. And my heart breaks for these families. And my heart is ripped and torn in pieces for what they're going through, because I know how that feels. And there's no words that can take that pain away. That pain has to be given to God so that you can breathe again. Whatever the conversation that is moving forward, I know that these families are going to turn to our legislation for answers. Whatever that conversation looks like, I am hoping that those actions address the dire mental health needs that so many in this country and in the state of Michigan are suffering from right now. This madness has to stop, and this madness cannot continue any longer. Tragedy has once again been brought to our doorstep. And I'm asking you, as we grieve today, to join me and be hopeful that we are proactive tomorrow and that we find effective solutions that will work for our families in Michigan. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Young.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of this memorial resolution. I rise today in support of my Spartan family. You see, as the events of February 13th were unfolding, there's this sense of helplessness. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to act. And so the only thing I could think of was contact my good colleague from the 73rd District. I said, colleague, I know you're there. I know you are on the ground, boots on the ground. I said, how can I be helpful? What are the students saying that they need? And this was her response to me, Mr. Speaker. I just summed it up and they said they needed to be heard because these were the words that she sent me verbatim. We are terrified. We want change. We need assurance. We are tired. Policy, not political platitudes. That's what our children deserve. That's what we're going to deliver on. Yeah, I just happen to be an old little preacher lady from the city of Detroit. And I'll tell you, there are two things you will never, ever be able to stop me from doing. One of those things, Mr. Speaker, is praying for these young people. I am never going to stop doing that. And the other thing, Mr. Speaker, is loving on them. You can't stop me from loving them. I'm going to always love them. And not only that, they will know my love and our love, the love in this chamber, by our actions. Our actions will prove just how much we love them. And so with that, I say love is the work. I say God bless you. And I say go green.
Speaker recognizes Representative Aragona.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As many of you may know, I am currently a graduate student at Michigan State University. In fact, you often find me studying when I have a free moment here on the floor. On Monday night, I was in a restaurant with some friends directly across from the MSU Student Union. The first indication that something was wrong was when I noticed one, then two, then three police cruisers pull up, park on or near Grand River. This is all while we were eating. More cruisers and more ambulances followed and parked near them. And then we were told by the restaurant staff to quickly move to the back of the restaurant as they locked the front door. At that point, I knew something truly terrible was unfolding. Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote on this resolution to honor the three students who were killed during this horrific tragedy. I wish to express our sincere condolences to the parents of the victims and to those students and staff on campus who were also affected by the shooting. It's vital to thank our first responders, many of whom were here today. And I know they made many of us feel safe in that restaurant, as safe as could be. I watched these heroes as they rushed both into Berkey and the Student Union, not knowing what to expect or what they would see. Mr. Speaker, I also urge a yes vote because we all need to work together to find the best solutions to end this senseless violence. This is an issue that will require a concerted effort from this entire body of legislators. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative B. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand before you today in support of this resolution. I have felt and still feel a mixture of emotions over the shootings that took the lives of 3 young people and injured 5. I feel horror, disgust, anger, and deep, deep sadness. I heard about this shooting, the shooting of these young people while I was at work. I immediately thought of a young person that I helped mentor, Levanus Bowl, and I found out he was okay. And then, like my colleague, I prayed, because too often when we have mass shootings like that, there are victims. Unfortunately, for 3 young people, Ariel, Alexandria, and Brian, and 5 that's still struggling for their lives, the outcome is really bad. I remember my first day on the campus of MSU. MSU was a safe place for a kid from Detroit. This was a place that I could go and I could learn. I remember walking from Holmes Hall on the East Complex and then walking all the way to Holden Hall in the South Complex. And too often than not, I ended up at the MSU's Student Union. And I will say that again. Too often, I ended up at the Student Union. I remember how safe I felt on the campus of Michigan State. A lot of times I would walk at night when I didn't have my bike. But even when I had my bike, I didn't have to put a chain on it because there just was no crime. I could just park it at the Union and go across the street and have a good time in downtown East Lansing. Today, I felt the deep urge to revisit my past. I wanted to go back out to Michigan State, where I went to school. And I went to Holden Hall, and I stood in front of the building. And I went to Holmes Hall, and I stood in front of the building. And then I went to MSU Union, and the police were still out there, and there were flowers. And I grieved deeply for the parents and the victims and the children. I grieved for the whole community of Michigan State. Why? As my colleague said a minute ago, I'm a survivor. This is not a game. This is not posturing. My sister got a call. Her son was just walking across the street, and he was gunned down. And I could hear her screaming on the phone that her son was dead, screaming to the top of her lungs. And it traumatized our whole family because this young man was an aspiring artist. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And we survived his death to come and get another shooting. This one hit home because while I was busy doing my work, I got a call. I only had one child. And he happens to be a veteran. Now, he was shot right here in Lansing. He survived that shooting. But like a lot of these young people up there, he did not survive the PTSD, the trauma behind getting shot. And 1 year later, I got a call. My only child was dead. So as I left Michigan State today, I want y'all to hear me. When I left Michigan State today, after going to Holmes and Holden and the Union Building and watching the young people terrified, something told me, go to the corner of Michigan Avenue and Martin Luther King and stand where you see your son took his last breath. This is serious, everybody. What the parents are going to feel that my son died in 2019, but the tears are falling today. What the parents are going to feel, what the families are going to feel, what the students are going to feel, what we are going to feel, we could do something about. So I want students at MSU to know that we are here for you. I am here for you. I will come out there on campus. I will walk with you, stand with you, do whatever you need to get it done, because it shouldn't happen again. And I ask everyone in this chamber who could feel what I feel. I come in here every single day with this, to join in on this resolution. Not only to sign this resolution, but to take action so it won't happen again. We can and we will end gun violence in Michigan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Filler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do rise in support of this resolution. And I just speak honestly and openly that I'm shaken, and that my wife, who works at Sparrow, where victims are treated and are being currently treated, is shaken too, and that this entire mid-Michigan community is shaken by this evil and the violence. And you know, I hear it today. We're shaken because parents, they had to make the call you never want to make, to ensure that your child is safe. And that's a really painful call, and that sticks with you. And I've heard about it now for 3 days, and I think if we're honest, we're probably not going to be the same after Monday, if we're just speaking honestly here. But I refuse to let the grief thrust on us by the perpetrator dominate and overwhelm and continue to harm this community. We'll not let that individual win. So let us recognize a couple things. There are heroes among us. They deserve our honor and our gratitude. Let's honor that law enforcement who cleared areas, who came from all over Michigan to bring safety and order to this campus. Let's honor the dispatcher who organized a scary, chaotic scene, who showed patience and love, and whose calmness probably saved lives. Michigan State University is an exceptional place filled with exceptional young individuals protected by heroes. And this house does grieve for you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Morse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in support of this resolution today, honoring the students at Michigan State who've been through so much in these last couple of days. I rise today as a mother of 3 children, one who's still in school and has to do lockdown drills. I rise as a Spartan, and I rise as an aunt to a Michigan State Spartan. And I want to share with you some of what was going on Monday night from the parents' perspective. As I read the news breaking on Twitter, I called my sister first, because my niece is a sophomore at Michigan State. I said, "Have you spoken with my niece?" And she said, "No, what's up?" And I said, "There's an active shooter at Michigan State. And you need to make sure she's safe." She said, "Well, I think she's out to dinner, so I'm going to call her right now, and I'll let you know." So she called her. Thank God she was safe. But she ended up having to rent my niece a hotel room out by Eastwood, because She didn't want to make her go back. She couldn't go back to campus, and so she stayed in a hotel that night. I then texted my daughter's best friend. I was with her today on the steps of the Capitol, and I said, "Are you okay, and are you safe?" And thank God she was. During my years at Michigan State, I was a member of the Sigma Kappa sorority, and I'm still very close with 5 of my sorority sisters, 2 of whom have students at MSU. Our text string started lighting up as news of this trickled out, and we started on our text string. And I just want to share with you some of what was going on that evening with my 2 friends that have children that are students at Michigan State. So we were trying to figure out, make sure that their kids are okay. And the one student lives in Phillips, which was next door to Berkey Hall and the Union. I'm sorry, just one moment, please. Okay. Someone said, I'm not going to name names, is oh good. We have been on the phone with him, but he is scared. So are we. This is terrifying and horrible. Did he stay in his dorm? He's on the 3rd floor of Phillips. This is my other friend. C has no phone battery, but he keeps calling me from someone else's phone. O is terrified, still under his desk, barricaded and in the dark. But we have been in constant contact. His dorm is secure, but he can't leave his safe space. Students of MSU, I join in your sorrow. I send my condolences to the students, families who were murdered, and those that are fighting for their lives. I thank our first responders for their commitment to your duty in a terrible, frightening time. And I join my colleagues in committing to action. Someone asked me today, do I feel like the legislation that some of us have been talking about, is it now or never? I said it's neither. It's yesterday. It's 10 years ago. It is so past time for true action on addressing gun violence in this country. It's absolutely inexcusable. And I'm done with it. And I'm going to be here. I don't care if I don't get reelected, because this is about the people of this state and the children who need to go to school in safety. And I will not stand for it anymore. So I promise you that I'm committing to action. And I'm going to work with my colleagues every day to make good on that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Speaker recognizes Representative Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of the resolution. And with all of my colleagues, I would like to pay my respects to the 3 students killed Monday evening on the campus of Michigan State University, and to offer my sincere condolences to the families of those killed by gun violence. Alexandria, Ariel, and Brian were 3 bright, talented, and ambitious young people. They represented what it means to be a Spartan and a Michigander. To those students still fighting, still healing, we send you our strength, our love, and avail ourselves to support you in whichever way possible. As someone whose education journey began at MSU as a preschooler and ended there with my undergraduate degree It would be an understatement to say that my heart and the heart of many others are deeply rooted in East Lansing. But now, my heart aches. I reflect on the time that I and so many other Spartans across this state and country and world spent at the Union in Berkey Hall. Places built to facilitate collaboration, build community and camaraderie, and to allow for growth as individuals. For these places to be so violated by mass violence and now scarred as the places where students were killed and not remembered for the positive places of learning that they embody, this should make all our hearts ache. There is not a single person in this chamber unaffected by this event. There is not one of us without an MSU connection back home in our districts. Our constituents are hurting. The students and faculty above us are hurting and devastated, and we are hurting. This is not only a tragedy for Michigan State, but this is a tragedy for the state of Michigan. May our grief and shock not dampen our shared vision for a safer world. A world where gun violence does not happen in our schools and in our neighborhoods and in our workplaces. That mass violence is not simply commonplace, soon to be forgotten. Rather, may our hearts and minds and bodies course with the motivation necessary to make that safe and nurturing world our reality, and may it not come a moment too soon. As our alma mater rings, MSU, I love thy shadows. On Monday, that shadow did not represent the calm of a stillness on campus. It was a darkness that befell our nation as we mourned another mass shooting, and a mass shooting of young people. Finally, I stand with alumni all over this state and this nation and this world who are shaken by this tragedy in urging a yes vote on this resolution, and join them in repeating our common refrain, forever and ever, go green.
Speaker recognizes Representative Marthas.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in support of this resolution. And I did not want today to be the first time that I rose to speak in this esteemed chamber. My plan was, during my career, to defer to some of my more experienced colleagues, bide my time, and wait one day to be able to speak on one of the transformative pieces of legislation that we're going to pass in this esteemed body, talking about expanding health care or investing in infrastructure. But today, it's important for me to stand up. I did not plan to speak on such an issue. If I had, I would have shaved this goatee off. But today, I have to speak on behalf of a generation and a community that knows this problem all too well. I rise today not just as a legislator, though it is my honor to represent my community, nor as a Spartan, though I am a proud graduate of the class of 2021, but being a member of a generation that knows this epidemic of gun violence personally. I was born a year after Columbine, when demands of gun reform were drowned out, where folks blamed heavy metal music, Marilyn Manson, video games, or the internet for an issue that was caused by gun violence. I grew up going to school where we would practice lockdown so young that the idea of gun violence couldn't be discussed. Our teachers would talk about it in the case of what if a villain got into our school? The superheroes were going to come save us, that was for sure, but what if a villain got into our school? What would we do? And then I remember in my 7th grade computer class, always being a fan of current events, always refreshing CNN to see what the news was of the day, and seeing the news coming out of Newtown. when kids just a few years younger than me, a few years younger than my siblings, a few years younger than my classmates were gunned down in their classrooms. And I realized in that moment that this idea that it couldn't happen here, that it could happen there. And a few years later in high school, when news broke out from Parkland in Florida, I was proud of folks that were my age, my generation, who stood up and said, enough is enough. And I saw in those high schoolers, who were seniors in high school just like me at the time, that it could happen here. And now it happens in my alma mater, MSU. I had classes in Berkey Hall. Every member of my staff is a graduate or a current student at MSU. Ashley, Peyton, Maddie, and Jesse, I love you all, and I know that we have a bond not just as a staff, but as Spartans, and a few of them were watching on from their apartments as police officers raced to protect us. And then I spoke on the phone with my brother. My brother has 4 classes in Berkey Hall. He was hiding along with his roommates in their dorm room, scared for his life, his friends scared for their lives. And I called Max, and just being on the phone with him, I realized that we say always it couldn't happen here, it couldn't happen here. It did happen here. And I spoke to my friends who are still at MSU. As a recent graduate, those folks who are running away from the shooter, those folks that were victims of the shooter, I'm only a few years removed from them. So those were my classmates. Those are the folks that I went to school with. I know them. I've been in those positions before. To say that this can't happen again, it has happened, and if we don't take action, it will continue to happen. As we've heard a lot of great speeches today, the speeches are coming to an end, and it's time to get to work. Like many of my colleagues, I'm a person of faith, a proud Catholic, and I often go to Scripture during difficult times like these, and I reflect on the words from the book of James, that faith without works is dead. Thank you.
Speaker recognizes Representative Devendorf.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will close us out today, and for once, I'll keep it brief. I rise today in support of the memorial resolution. This, where we sit, is my district. And as the representatives from the Capitol Caucus have stated, this community is very intertwined. But so are all of our communities. This state is interwoven. This nation is interwoven. We're not just hurting because of earlier this week, we're hurting because this has built up. This is a crisis that has grown. This is a crisis that has felt like we have reached a point of normalization, and not just from mass shootings of the nature that we envision when we think about school shootings, but because of daily gun violence in our communities. And when Representative Martis talks about children having to be prepared for violence in schools by hearing about villains and heroes, it makes me wonder, who are the villains? When do we start to resemble them? Is it when we are lacking in action? Is it when we continue to ignore what's happening or the facts? When do we become complicit? When do we add to the perpetuation of violence? When what we're doing is just preparing and rehearsing our children and our students and the folks in our communities to be ready for violence to happen, as if that is the way life just is, instead of preparing people to thrive and preventing us from harming each other. Because it can be different, and none of this is inevitable. We do have an opportunity to shift the way we treat each other. We do have an opportunity to protect each other. We have an opportunity to change the game. Who are the villains? We don't want to resemble them. We know what right looks like. We know what safe looks like because we yearn for it. That is the world that we are building. And the people that we serve can handle the nuance and complexity that that will require, because that is their lives. And when we refuse to give that to them in the form of solutions, it isn't because they can't handle it, it's because we aren't willing to talk about it. And then we look like we don't get it. The people we serve know that we need to address gun violence, and that we need to address mental health, and that we need to address services, and. So now we do it, because the future is in our hands. So we absolutely should think of each other and pray for each other and care for each other, and in the same space, on the same day, in the same hour, protect each other, prevent violence, stop violence, put resources in place so that we are ensuring that we are supporting each other. All of these things can exist in the same space, because none of this is normal. And safety is a bare minimum in our schools, in our streets, and that means taking care of our students before they have to be sacrificed as examples for our learning. No more hard lessons. Definitely not at the expense of our friends, neighbors, and children. No more hard lessons.
All members in favor of the memorial resolution, please rise. The resolution is adopted. For the purposes of a special introduction, the Speaker. For the purposes of a special introduction, the Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us today in the East, West, and South galleries are our Spartan Nation students from Michigan State, along with their friends and family that were joined outside today with many of us with a demonstration and a rally organized by a Spartan named Maya. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to recognize them for their presence today.
Will the guests in the gallery please rise? and be recognized. And welcome to the House of Representatives. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ayash.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the sergeants escort our first responders from the chamber.
So ordered. House will go ahead and ease call to the chair.
House will come to order. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, move to take up House Resolution 3-7.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
House Resolution number 3-7, introduced by Representative Fink, a resolution to declare February 14, 2023 as Frederick Douglass Day in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to pass for the day.
So ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, move to take up House Resolution 3-8.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
House Resolution number 3-8, introduced by Representative Fox, a resolution to declare February 14th, 2023 as National Donor Day in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
I move to pass for the day.
So ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Continuing on the order of motion and resolution, move to take up House Resolution 3-9.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
House Resolution number 3-9, introduced by Representative Markinen, a resolution to declare February 16, 2023 as Elks USA Appreciation Day in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Pass for the day.
So ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Madam Speaker, continuing on the order of motions and resolutions, move to take up House Resolution 4-0.
Without objection, so ordered, the clerk will read.
House Resolution number 4-0, introduced by Representative Conlon, a resolution to declare February 15, 2023 as Less Cancer Day in the state of Michigan.
Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
I move to pass for the day.
So ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Continuing the order of motions and resolution, move to take up House Concurrent Resolution Number 2.
Without objection, so ordered. The clerk will read.
House Concurrent Resolution Number 2, introduced by Representative Markkinen, a concurrent resolution to urge the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, in coordination with the U.S. Department of Interior and the federal government, to reestablish a viable and self-sustaining wolf population in the Lower Peninsula.
House Concurrent Resolution is referred to the Committee on Natural Resources. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
I move that the House proceed to order motions and resolutions.
Without objection, so ordered. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
I move that committees be given leave to meet during the balance of today's session.
Without objection, so ordered. Committees are given leave to meet. Speaker recognizes Majority Floor Leader Ash.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just let the members know there will be no further voting when the House adjourns. It stands adjourned until Wednesday, February 22nd at 1:30 p.m.
Without objection, so ordered. House will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
If I could have members' attention, please. The chamber is going to be used by Youth and Government over the weekend, so if you have any personal items on your desk, we ask that you remove them. They will be coming in this weekend. Thank you. The House will come to order. The House will proceed to announcements by the Clerk of Printing and Enrollment.
Clerk announced that the following bills have been reproduced and made available electronically on Tuesday, February 14th. House Bills 4077 through 4100.
Notices.
Appropriations Subcommittee on Judiciary will meet Wednesday, February 22nd at 10:30 a.m. in room 307 of the House Office Building.
Introduction of bills.
Representative Vanderwall offers House Bill 4101, a bill to amend the Public Health Code. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
Bills considered read for a first time by its title, referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Markkinen offers House Bill 4102, a bill to amend the Natural Resources and Environmental Protection Act. The people of the state of Michigan enact.
Bills considered read for a first time by its title, referred to the Committee on Natural Resources, Environment, Tourism, and Outdoor Recreation.
Representative Fink offers House Bill 4103, a bill to define extraordinary medical measures for purposes of determining fetal viability under Section 28 of Article 1 of the State Constitution of 1963. People of the state of Michigan enact.
Bills considered read for a first time by its title, referred to the Committee on Health Policy.
Representative Alexander offers House Bill 4104, a bill to require certain individuals to obtain the consent of a parent, guardian, or person acting in loco parentis of the individual before exercising the right described in Section 28 of Article 1 of the State Constitution of 1963, the people of the state of Michigan enact.
Bill is considered read for a first time by its title, refer to the Committee on Health,